The next day, I had my first chance to wear a pair of my new jeans and was amazed at the fit. My old jeans were always tight in the sides and loose in the waist, with enough extra fabric in the back to hold a basketball. The jeans Melissa bought fit perfectly at the hips and waist and hugged my curves. I pulled on a low-cut top over my bra, and when I looked in the mirror, I saw a girl staring back. The top curved at the sides, and the jeans gave me a feminine shape. I slipped on ankle socks and headed to breakfast. As I entered the kitchen, Melissa let out a low whistle. Getting a little daring with the cleavage, aren't we, young lady? If you've got it, flaunt it, Melissa. I laughed, spinning around. How do I look? You're gorgeous, Jan. Mom exclaimed. You've got a really cute shape. Thanks, Mom, but it's the clothes. Somehow they make me look more like a girl. I noticed Mom shooting Melissa a curious glance but didn't think much of it. I loved their compliments, no one had ever said anything that nice to me before. I spent the day helping with housework and chatting with Melissa before it was time to get ready. As I headed upstairs for a bath, Melissa stopped me, handing over a box from a local women's store. Inside was a beautiful brown leather miniskirt and a low-cut gold top. Just something to make your night special, she said. I can't wait to see how you look. I couldn't wait either. I dashed upstairs, took a quick bath, shaved my legs and underarms, and hurried to get ready. Back in my room, I chose a white lace-trimmed bra, panties, and slip set. I slipped on the panties, followed by tan stockings and the slip, then put on my bra. Melissa had made sure my new bras were padded, so I didn't need to stuff the cups like before. That was a smart move because the old bras had done wonders. I hadn't realized how much extra flesh I had on my chest until I hooked the bra and straightened it out. There was just enough room in the cups for it all. I truly looked like a girl with a decent bus. Amazing what clothes can do. I did my own makeup again, but Melissa helped secure my wig to the tape holding it in place. After brushing it out, I caught a glimpse of the cute girl I'd become and couldn't help but grin. You look beautiful, Lily, a beautiful young woman, Melissa whispered softly. Your date will be thrilled to be seen with you. Thanks, Melissa, I whispered back. I owe you big time for making me look this nice. All I did was show you what could be done, January. You always had the potential. It felt strange to me that a geeky guy like me could so easily become such a good-looking girl, but I supposed I was just lucky. Melissa had bought me a pair of pumps to match my skirt, and once I was completely ready, we went downstairs to show Mom. What do you think of your son now? Melissa teased. I think he's everything a mother could hope for in a daughter. Mom laughed. Pretty, nice legs, great shape, and very good to her mother. I smiled and curtsied. So glad you approve of me. It wasn't long before Adam arrived. After quick hellos and goodbyes, we were off to the dance. Adam graciously held the car door as I slid in, and I noticed him checking me out. I felt good about it. I'd gone to a lot of trouble to look nice, and I was glad he appreciated it. After all, if I was going to look like a teenage girl, I wanted my date to think I looked great. The drive to the dance was a blast. Adam was so funny and made me feel so comfortable I could have talked with him all night. Of course, he wanted to show off the cute model he'd been bragging about to his friends. I knew I'd do the same if roles were reversed. Suddenly, I pictured Adam in my outfit and burst into giggles. What's so funny? Oh, nothing, I replied sweetly. It's a girl thing, you wouldn't understand. True, how true. Once inside, we spent a few minutes meeting his friends, or rather, showing me off. All the guys seemed thrilled to meet me, asking how we met, if I was really a model, and if I'd dance with them too. I told them about meeting Adam, confirmed I was a model, well, at least this summer, and said I'd love to dance, but since I was Adam's date, they'd have to ask him. Adam was in his element, all his friends practically drooled over me, but I made it clear I was his date. It was every guy's dream, including mine. But tonight, my dreams took a backseat. I was Adam's date, and that was all that mattered. Maybe this summer, in a different town, I'd meet some girls willing to go out with me. My thoughts were interrupted when Adam took my hand and led me to the dance floor. A slow song played, and it was time to shine. I wrapped my hands around Adam's neck and followed his lead. Dancing with Adam wasn't bad at all. He held me close, told me how pretty I looked, and how happy he was to have me out with him. No one had ever been this happy to have me around before. They usually just tolerated me. The attention from Adam was wiping away memories of Jake. I was Lily, a 16-year-old girl, with a guy who made me feel amazing. I rested my head on his chest, feeling like I was in heaven. After a couple of dances, one of his friends asked me to dance. I glanced at Adam, who smiled and said it was fine. The song was faster, so the guy didn't hold me much, but he seemed happy just being seen dancing with me. I was amazed at the effect I had on these guys. At school, they acted like I was invisible. Now, all it took was a smile to make them go wild. If only they knew how badly I'd felt ignored. But I was having too much fun to dwell on the past. Tonight was about enjoying myself. By night's end, I'd danced with 6 other guys besides Adam. When the last dance started, I was back where I wanted to be, in Adam's arms. The song was soft and romantic. All the girls held their boyfriends close. I tightened my grip around Adam's neck and rested my head on his chest, oblivious to anyone else around. The ride home came too soon. Standing at my front door, saying goodnight, Adam asked to see me again next week. I gently declined, saying I had too much work and didn't want to bother Mom. But I promised to call if I ever came back to town so we could go out again. I'm not sure what I was thinking. I'd gotten so caught up in the role I forgot myself. Still, I wrapped my arms around his neck and kissed him goodnight. It would have been one thing to just kiss him on the cheek, but instead, I slowly pulled him closer and kissed him right on the lips. As our lips met, I realized what I'd done, but it was too late. Adam held me tight, kissing me the way I'd dreamed of kissing some of the girls at school. With no escape, I did what any self-respecting girl would do. I returned his kiss, then another, and another. Finally, we said our goodnights, and I managed to slip inside without making a bigger fool of myself. Of course, Mom and Melissa were waiting with grins stretching from ear to ear. What a kiss! Mom laughed. Will I be invited to the wedding? What an actor! Melissa exclaimed. Or should I say actress? You saw that, huh? I asked slowly. Believe me, it wasn't what you think. Of course not, Jan, Mom said. Just another part, right? Right. Just another part. What do you think? I think my daughter is experiencing her first case of puppy love. Mom replied. I wouldn't go that far, Mom. It just felt right, that's all. I noticed Mom and Melissa exchanging knowing looks, but I didn't care. I'd done what felt right, even if I couldn't explain why. Melissa asked about the dance, and I happily rambled on about how much fun I'd had and all the guys who wanted to dance with me. The smile on my face must have said it all, because I suddenly noticed the grin on Mom's face. You're not sorry you went tonight, I take it, she asked slyly. Not at all, Mom, I blurted. Adam was really sweet and a great dancer. I'm glad you had such a good time, dear, but now it's time for a bath and off to bed. Tomorrow's a school day. I was in heaven as I changed and bathed, unable to forget how wonderful it felt to be held and kissed like that. Even though I'd shaved my legs and underarms earlier that afternoon, I felt like doing it all over again. I loved the soft, silky feel of my skin. Monday found me back at school, ignored as usual. Even Adam walked by like I didn't exist. The guys who couldn't wait to be with me last night had other interests today. Strange that it bothered me. I told myself the weekend was just practice for the summer job. I wasn't really a girl, so why feel so sad? But whenever I saw Adam, those feelings came rushing back. Why was I acting like a lovesick teenager? It took weeks to get over my feelings for Adam, but somehow I managed. I wanted to sit down with Mom and talk, but I was afraid it would feel too much like a mother-daughter talk, and afraid I'd start crying like some silly girl. I admit, some nights I lay in bed crying, and that scared me half to death. I was a boy, And boys didn't cry. I promised myself I'd never let that happen again. I might have to pretend to be a girl for work this summer, but after work, I'd be all boy. I'd play baseball, fight, get hurt, do all the things that made me a boy. School finally ended, and Mom told me to pack whatever clothes I'd need for summer. I figured Melissa would provide whatever I had to model, so I packed my few pairs of boys' jeans and shorts, some jerseys, and underwear. Mom said I'd leave in a day or two, so I should pack anything I wasn't going to wear, and Melissa would pick up my suitcases. On the day I was supposed to leave, Mom suggested we go out for a burger since we wouldn't see each other for a few weeks. I didn't refuse, I'd miss her, and a burger always sounded good. When we got back, Melissa was waiting. "All set, Lily?" she asked. "You start working for me next Monday. Do you have to call me that?" I grumbled. "I'm only Lily at work. After that, I'm just a normal boy. The only dates I'll go on are with girls." "Calm down, sweetie," Mom said. "Everything will be okay, I promise." "We do have one small problem, though, Jan," Melissa interrupted. "You can't go dressed like this. I have to stop by the office, and you'll need to look like a girl. You can change once we get there." I thought it would be okay to bend the dressing rule just this once, so I headed to my room. "Melissa called after me, while you were out, I picked something nice for you, January. It's in your mom's room, you can change there." Once again, Melissa was in control. I wondered if I'd ever get used to it. Sure enough, everything was laid out on Mom's bed. True to form, Melissa had thought of everything. I took off my jeans, socks, shirt, and underwear and put on panties, a bra, slip, stockings, a pretty blue top, and a denim miniskirt. I still couldn't figure out how wearing two small bras made me look like I had chests, but I had to admit I filled out the bra pretty well. Melissa had also set out white pumps to wear with my skirt. After dressing, I used Mom's makeup, brushed my hair, and went to see if Melissa was ready. Mom made a big fuss over my leaving, telling me how much she'd miss me, how she'd try to visit, and that she'd be looking for a new job. She finished by telling me how nice I looked and how proud she was that I was pretty enough to be a model. I wanted to argue about being pretty, but it was the last time I'd see her for weeks, and she meant well, so I just smiled and said thanks. Melissa wished Mom luck with the job hunt, said I'd call often, and then we were off. We stopped at Melissa's office, where she grabbed some papers from a file cabinet, then gave me a quick tour. One room was set up for pictures, with equipment and backdrops. Another area was for changing, with racks for clothes and a large, lighted makeup station. Melissa told me I'd spend most of my time there unless the client requested otherwise. I hoped that wouldn't happen. I felt more comfortable and secure at Melissa's place. After finishing at the office, we drove to Melissa's apartment, where I'd be staying for the next couple of months. I asked if it was a good idea for me to be seen dressed like this, but she laughed her odd laugh and told me to relax, that everything would be fine. As we stepped into the elevator, two other women joined us, leaving me nowhere to hide, and it was obvious I was with Melissa. I nearly froze when, mid-conversation, Melissa turned to me and introduced me as Lily, the girl I told you about. The women immediately showered me with compliments, praising my figure and beauty. They seemed to know quite a bit about my new job, and I couldn't help but wonder just how much Melissa had shared with them. Once inside the apartment, I confronted Melissa, demanding to know what she had told them and why. She calmly explained that since I'd be living with her for a few months, it was best her friends knew about it. After all, they were close friends and would eventually wonder who the girl staying with her was. "Girl? What girl? There's not going to be any girl living here," I protested. Melissa chuckled that odd laugh again and told me to check out my new room. Opening the door she pointed to, I found a room decorated with a teenage girl in mind. The walls were a soft violet, with a darker violet rug. The bed was covered in pale yellow sheets with a matching ruffle edging. Nearby was a makeup table fully stocked with the kit I'd received months ago. Opening the dresser drawer revealed it was packed with panties, slips, stockings, and bras. The walk-in closet was filled exclusively with girls' clothes, dresses, skirts, slacks, you name it. The only thing missing were my boys' clothes. What's going on, Melissa? You promised I'd only have to dress up for pictures. Where are my boys' clothes? Sweetheart, I never made that promise. You said that's what you wanted to do, but I never agreed. I can't have a boy walking into the dressing room and a girl coming out, that wouldn't do at all. As for your boys' clothes, they were in such bad shape your mom threw them all away. After the summer, you can buy new ones if you want. Until then, just relax and enjoy being a pretty girl. I promise you'll have a great time. I wasn't in a position to argue. I'd agreed to this, it hadn't been too bad so far, and the pay was incredible. All right, you're right. I'll behave myself, I promise. Melissa quickly brought me back to the present. I had an appointment at a beauty salon in an hour for a hair makeover. The blonde hair she'd first given me was going to be redone on a more permanent basis, styled in a flattering and pretty way. I was excited, my hair hadn't been cut in nearly 6 months and was getting difficult to style. I was going to be a girl, but Melissa was determined to make sure I'd be a pretty one, and I was grateful. When it was all done, I could hardly believe how good I looked. My hair was now a shining golden yellow that seemed to catch every light in the shop. It hung to my shoulders in gentle waves, curling under at the ends. Pretty bangs framed my face, with the sides softly tapering back. Well, Lily, what do you think now? I was too amazed to speak. I wasn't a boy in a dress anymore, I was every inch a beautiful girl. Melissa seemed to understand and left me to admire my new hairstyle while she paid the bill. She asked if I had any doubts left about modeling for her, and I said no without hesitation. I had all the training I needed, and now the looks to match. I couldn't wait to start. Back home, Melissa suggested I might feel more comfortable changing into jeans. Though I'd grown used to dresses and actually found them quite comfortable, I agreed. Changing into jeans, I marveled at how much I looked like a girl even in slacks. Melissa was surprised when she saw I'd paired my jeans with a low-cut top and bra. Your shape looks better every time, January. You sure you're not taking anything? Of course not. It's just what those first bras did for me. Melissa looked skeptical, but there was nothing I could say. She'd made me this way, why act like it was so unusual? The next few days were spent walking around the neighborhood, getting to know other kids. At first, I worried about how people would react, surely a real girl would notice I wasn't what I seemed. But my fears disappeared once Melissa introduced me to a few girls in the building, who accepted me without hesitation. Soon, we were laughing and talking like old friends. Working for Melissa wasn't all fun and games, though. I had to hold some awkward poses to capture the natural, candid look, and switching outfits, hairstyles, and makeup in minutes was tough. To everyone's delight, I proved a quick study, soon moving, smiling, posing, and changing like an experienced model. I only worked about 5 hours a day, but I was glad when it was over so I could go home and slip into jeans or shorts to relax. I didn't want to admit it, but after a couple of weeks, I found myself looking forward to wearing some of the outfits I modeled and even wishing I had dresses like those for myself. What really drove me was my first paycheck, more money than I'd ever seen. It made me determined to be the best at my job, which, considering my job was to be a girl, was no easy task. Whenever I had a day off, I found myself hanging out with my girlfriends, going to movies or shopping at the mall. They loved trying on different outfits, but I couldn't get excited, it felt more like work to me. What I really wanted was to cool off at the pool with them on hot summer days. One day, while I was moping around the studio during my day off, Melissa asked what was wrong. I told her how I kept making excuses to avoid swimming with my friends, even though I desperately wanted to join them. Melissa smiled and promised that after work, we'd go out for dinner and shop for bathing suits for me. Since she had kept her word so far, I decided to trust her. That evening, we stopped for burgers, and I insisted on paying. It felt strange treating someone else to a meal I'd never really been able to afford, but it was great. We talked shop over dinner, and after a quick trip to the ladies' room, we headed to the mall. On the way, Melissa handed me a package, saying it would solve my problem. I opened it to find what looked like a pair of thong-style panties, too small even for me. Melissa explained it was called a dancer's belt, designed to conceal a male's genitals. After a detailed explanation on how to wear it, I slipped it into my purse and hoped for the best. At the mall, we visited a store specializing in the latest women's swimwear. I looked at over a dozen suits I thought were pretty, plus a few Melissa picked out, but I rejected them all. They were designed to highlight a young woman's figure, which I didn't have, and wouldn't hide the male anatomy I definitely did have. After turning down a couple more suits, Melissa handed me a bright pink bikini and insisted I try it on. Are you crazy? If I can't wear one-piece suits, there's no way I can wear this. But Melissa was firm and guided me to the nearest dressing room. Don't forget your belt, she whispered as she practically pushed me inside. Once inside, I removed my skirt, top, and lingerie. After a struggle, I managed to put on the belt. I hadn't expected it to be comfortable, but it wasn't bad at all. I glanced at myself in the mirror and focused where I always had a bulge, except it was gone, nowhere to be seen. I looked like a young girl standing there in high-cut lace panties. I stared from every angle, completely flat, just like any girl my age. Strangely, I was thrilled with how I looked and quickly pulled on the bikini bottoms. Turning away from the mirror, afraid I'd jinx myself if I looked too soon, I put on the top. After gathering all my loose flesh, which somehow seemed more abundant now, into the cups, I fastened it and slowly faced the mirror. There was no denying it, I was thrilled to see the pretty girl looking back. I figured my curved waist was just an illusion created by the suit, but what about the not-so-small matter of my chests? I'd always been a skinny boy, so where did all that loose flesh come from? I heard Melissa ask if I was okay, so I stepped out to show her. Her expression said it all, she couldn't believe that the sweet young woman before her was actually a boy. My God, you're beautiful, she whispered. I didn't look that good when I was your age. I'll take that as a compliment, I said, but I owe it all to this suit and your two small bras. Melissa agreed, but something told me she wasn't entirely convinced. I ended the day having spent over $200 on swimsuits and cover-ups. Melissa let me pick everything except the first suit, and I had a lot of fun choosing the prettiest ones I could find. Since I was going to be a girl anyway, I figured I might as well enjoy it. I picked a rather daring two-piece bikini in Kelly green that complemented my blonde hair perfectly. The sides were cut almost to the waistband, with minimal fabric in the front and slightly more in the back. The top featured shirred fabric with separate cups that gathered all my loose flesh into what looked like two nicely shaped chests. Of course, such a pretty suit deserved a matching cover jacket, so I chose one made entirely of lace. It was perfect, just what the suit called for. As we left the mall, I spotted some earrings in a shop that caught my eye. Melissa and I stopped to take a look. The first thing she noticed was that I couldn't wear them, they were for pierced ears, and the store had nothing comparable in clip-ons. I swallowed hard and turned to Melissa. Would it be okay if I got my ears pierced? Melissa hesitated, and after a few long seconds, she finally replied, Are you sure that's what you want, Jan? Even if you let the holes close later, there'll be scars. I understand, I said, but I'm sure. I just have to have those earrings, they're so pretty. Melissa studied me for a moment before calling over the clerk. The young lady would like to have her ears pierced, please. The clerk called over another girl to assist, and while they prepared everything, they kept calling me Miss and Young Lady as they explained how to care for my ears. Despite the excitement bubbling inside me, I paid close attention. I couldn't quite explain why I wanted my ears pierced, and somewhere deep inside, a voice whispered, Don't do it. But I couldn't get up from that chair. Of course, the clerk had no way of knowing my hesitation, and within minutes, my ears were pierced and my new earrings inserted. Seeing them in the mirror, I was convinced I'd made the right choice. The voice was still there, but I didn't care, I looked fantastic, and I loved it. Melissa was amazed at how natural I seemed, and I guess she wasn't the only one. It's hard to describe, but when I felt different, I truly felt like Lily. I tried to explain this to her, but I'm not sure she understood. She just kept saying I seemed to be getting carried away. The swimsuits were one thing, she explained they could be taken off once summer was over, but pierced ears? I just shrugged and told her if I didn't mind, why should she? She gave me a strange look and walked away. I went to my room, put away my new clothes, and got ready for bed. After a quick shower, I reached for my panties but stopped. Deciding I should get used to wearing it, I put on my dancer's belt before pulling on my panties and nightgown. It took a few minutes to adjust, but it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as learning to sleep in curlers had been. After a few hours of work the next day, I hurried home, changed quickly into my new bikini, slipped on my jacket, grabbed a towel and sunscreen, and set off for the pool. I felt so happy walking down the street in my bikini that I barely remembered how I got there. My friends were delighted to see me, as were several boys passing by. We spent the afternoon sunbathing and checking out the cute lifeguards. It was the most fun I'd had in months. My friends and I rarely went into the water. We were there to check out guys and be noticed by them, just like every other teenage girl. I hated thinking about what chlorine might do to my hair, and I definitely didn't want the guys seeing me looking like a drowned rat. My newfound concern for my appearance was paying off big time. Melissa was flooded with client requests for me, and I was earning more than I ever dreamed. I'd graduated from what Melissa called in-house modeling and was now doing fashion shows for clients who specifically asked for me. It was surreal to walk a runway wearing stunning outfits while a crowd oohed and ahed as I passed. Another bonus was that I was often allowed to keep the outfits I modeled. Soon, my closet overflowed with beautiful dresses and gowns. Whenever one of my girlfriends needed something special for a date or event, I was happy to lend her something from my collection, which thrilled them. In return, they tried setting me up on blind dates, which I always declined, saying I was too busy or didn't like blind dates. They kept trying, though, and after a long talk with Mom and Melissa, I finally agreed to a double date with one of my friends. My friend and I spent an afternoon picking out the perfect outfits for our date. I chose a dress I loved, with a pale yellow rain top and a floral print skirt. My friend was thrilled when I suggested she wear my gold top and leather skirt. I told her all about my date with Adam and how much he liked my outfit. I was a little nervous about dating, but Mom said people might think it odd if a pretty girl like me didn't date. What made me anxious wasn't that I was a boy going out with another boy, but that I secretly wanted to date. I never told anyone, but I wanted to experience as much of life as a girl as possible, including dating. I enjoyed checking out the cute guys at the pool and wondered what it would be like to be their date. The girls I hung out with were really cute and popular, but I only thought of them as friends. At first, I tried to sort out my feelings, but over time it became less important. My friend and I primped and fussed over each other until moments before our dates arrived. When the door opened, we knew our efforts had paid off. My date was very sweet, and I had a great time dancing with him. Later at the movie, he held my hand during the scary parts. It seemed silly at first. I'd seen plenty of horror movies, but after a few minutes, I found it comforting. It felt natural. He was doing what men had done for centuries, protecting a woman from danger. Even though I didn't really need protecting, it felt good to know he was there. On the way home, I realized Chloe, my friend, had left something out. Her date was driving, and I was in the back seat with Jared, my date, when we turned off the main road toward a park overlooking the city. Though I'd never dated as a boy, I knew enough from listening to others to understand what was coming. We were headed to a secluded makeout spot, and there was nothing I could do about it. We parked in a quiet spot, and as Jared pointed out landmarks, I noticed Chloe snuggling with her date. I felt confident, thanks to Melissa and Mom, and followed Chloe's lead by moving closer to Jared. He put his arm around me and whispered how pretty and fun I was. What more could a girl ask for? He was cute, protective, and thought I was a great date. Before I could respond, he pulled me close for a kiss. I giggled and closed my eyes, waiting. We necked for over an hour before driving home. We shared a few more kisses in the car before Jared walked me to my door. I gave him a final goodnight kiss, and he asked if we could go out again sometime. I pulled out a pen and paper from my purse and wrote down my number. "Call me, and we'll talk," I said, trying to sound as encouraging as possible. Jared grinned and carefully slipped my number into his shirt pocket, promising to keep it close to his heart. What a doll, I thought, closing the door behind me. What a doll. My date with Jared seemed to have an effect on me that I hadn't even noticed until Melissa pointed it out. She said she'd seen a change during our modeling sessions. My walk had become just a bit sexier, and I was relating differently to the guys who often worked with me, as well as to male clients. Suddenly, I found myself smiling and laughing more than ever. Melissa was happier too, since stores and designers who had never given her the time of day were now clamoring to book me. Her agency was making money faster than ever, and she credited it all to my acting skills. One thing Melissa found a bit puzzling, though, was something she couldn't explain away as acting. I was starting to shop for myself, buying some of the prettiest lingerie I could find. At first, I wore plain nylon panties, and she practically had to coax me into wearing a low-cut top. Now my drawers were filled with lace and satin, with high-cut panties trimmed in lace, often part of matching sets with slips and bras. Melissa joked that some of my lingerie could make a cool girl blush, but that was an exaggeration. My clothes were no sexier than what the average 16-year-old girl would wear. I had some lacy, low-cut bras I wore under tops and dresses that showed cleavage any girl would be proud of. What Melissa found odd was that I'd bought all of this for myself. I realized she was right. Over the past month or so, I'd been spending a lot of time shopping for clothes. It felt like every other day I was coming home with a new outfit or piece of jewelry. Since getting my ears pierced, I'd accumulated over 3 dozen pairs of earrings and 2 dozen necklaces. Melissa asked what I planned to do with all my stuff once I went back to being Jake. I couldn't answer. I hadn't even thought about the day I'd have to give up my pretty clothes, jewelry, and worst of all, the money. Soon, I'd have to go from being a glamorous model with gorgeous clothes and cash to a nerdy-looking boy who might be flipping burgers for minimum wage. I wasn't sure which bothered me more, giving up the clothes and popularity or giving up the money. Not that it mattered. Without the clothes, I'd have no money. How depressing. I didn't know how I'd handle it, but I hated the thought of losing everything I'd gained. Before I could bring it up with Melissa, she told me she'd made an appointment with a local doctor she trusted for a checkup. I told her I felt fine and that a full checkup would reveal I was a boy, ending my career. Melissa reassured me the doctor would be discreet and said the appointment was necessary. It turned out she and Mom had a long talk about how I'd been acting and were concerned. I didn't see the problem. I was dating more, feeling better about myself, and my work had improved. But Melissa insisted, so a few days later, Mom and I went to the doctor's office. The doctor was kind and put me at ease, complimenting how nice I looked and asking about my job and friends. A nurse took some blood samples before the doctor performed a thorough exam. I felt awkward taking off my jeans and top to wear a paper gown, but then she asked me to remove my bra so she could examine my chests. After some poking and prodding, she let me get dressed and said she'd call when the test results were ready. Several days later, I finally asked Melissa about my future. She was a little surprised but said she'd see what could be done. I was so relieved she understood. I gave her a big hug. "Calm down, Jan," she laughed. "I can't promise anything." Mom looked at me and asked if I was sure I wanted to continue. "Are you kidding? Have you seen all the great outfits I have and the money in the bank? Why wouldn't I want to continue?" Mom and Melissa exchanged that funny look again. I hated when they did that. I could never guess what they were thinking. The next week, Mom, Melissa, and I returned to the doctor to hear the test results. The doctor seemed more serious this time, and I began to worry something was wrong. She asked if I wanted Melissa to stay for the results, and I said yes. Melissa had been like a second mother these past months. Mom asked if it was serious. The doctor replied that it depended on me. Talk about confusing. How could the seriousness of a problem depend on the person who had it? The doctor began by reviewing our previous conversation. Yes, I was biologically a boy, but I'd gotten involved because of the acting and the money. I admitted I felt different about myself now, enjoying my job much more. I hadn't worn any boys' clothes since starting, though that wasn't really my choice. I liked wearing pretty clothes, makeup, and jewelry, but that was probably because I'd gotten used to them and couldn't wear boys' clothes. I did go on dates with boys, but only to maintain my image, and I didn't understand why I enjoyed them so much. When she asked why it seemed like I had chests, I told her all about the 2 small bras Melissa made me wear. When the questions ended, the doctor stopped writing and turned to another page in my file. Calmly, she said, "I think I can explain this. You're a girl." "Excuse me? After your exam last week, it was clear your chests were real, not just loose flesh. You've been developing female secondary characteristics. Your tests confirmed it. Your glands are producing far more female hormones than male. Instead of the typical boy's body and thought patterns for your age, your hormones are giving you the physical traits of a young woman, and your brain is being told you are female." I almost fell off the chair. Mom and Melissa looked equally stunned. "Are you absolutely sure?" Mom asked. "Absolutely," the doctor replied. "This would have happened regardless, but your job and how you dress made it more obvious. Your clothes fit a girl's figure perfectly, which explains how well they suit you. Your ability to act like a girl isn't just talent, it's because, chemically, you are one." "But that can't be true," I said, looking down at my lap. "You saw me. Remember, Lily," I said chemically. "You were born with a boy's body, but your chromosomes don't match. I saw you, but you're underdeveloped for your age. Haven't you wondered why other boys were shaving and had deep voices, but you weren't? I figured I was just a late bloomer, and my voice is changing now. You're a bit late as a girl, but you're developing well. About your voice, your mom and Melissa told me you're right and wrong. Your voice has changed, but it's in the range of an adult female. If someone heard you without seeing you, they'd assume you were a girl." I was too shocked to respond and lowered my head, tears streaming down my face. "What happens now?" Mom asked. "Is there anything that can be done?" The doctor explained that if I took large doses of male hormones, I could slow or reverse some female effects. I'd never grow much of a beard, my chests would remain slightly larger than most males, I wouldn't be able to father children, and I'd only grow another inch or 2. If I did nothing, I'd never have children since I'm male internally, but I'd experience typical female monthly mood swings and continue developing chests, hips, and rears like other girls. Surgery wouldn't make me look more masculine but could help me adapt as a female. It would involve removing my male organ and private organs and constructing a working female organ, allowing intercourse when ready. The doctor understood this was a lot to take in and didn't expect me to decide immediately. She advised me to go home, think it over for a few days, then decide. We thanked her and left, stunned and disbelieving. I took some days off to think and talk with Mom. Though uncertain at first, discussions with Mom and Melissa helped me decide. One day, I asked them both to sit down for a talk. I asked Melissa if she had a plan for me to continue working. She said yes, she'd arranged for me to attend a local private school where my girlfriends went. The school owner owed her a favor and agreed to accept me. There was one catch: I'd have to live as a girl until I graduated in 2 years. A lawyer Melissa knew would change all my old school records to show my name as Lily MIA and my gender as female. To everyone, I'd be a 16-year-old girl named Lily. Then I could continue modeling and finish school. After that, my future would be up to me. I turned to Mom and asked if she was okay with me staying a girl a little while longer. She smiled and said she thought that would work out perfectly, especially since Melissa had offered her a job as office manager at her agency. With business booming, Melissa needed extra help and hadn't had time to manage the office herself. The salary was much better than Mom's old job, so she gladly accepted. Mom found a lovely house just a few blocks away and was ready to sell our old home. It's been years since we moved. I spent 2 wonderful years in high school as Lily, then went on to earn a degree in marketing. I still work for Melissa, though not so much as a model anymore. Turns out, I wasn't just her best model, I'm a natural at sales. Melissa's client list is bigger than ever, and Mom has become a branch manager. As for me, the doctor was right, I did nothing to stop it and blossomed into a beautiful young woman, just as sought after for dates as for modeling. Mom and Melissa were also right about Jared. We continued dating and are planning to announce our engagement soon. He knows all about my past, but what can I say? He loves me. I plan to have the surgery the doctor recommended, and then Jared and I will get married. Who would have thought that 8 years ago, a skinny, lonely boy would become a beautiful woman, a successful model, and a bride-to-be? If you appreciated this story and wish to show your support, don't forget to join me on Patreon for exclusive content.